We began this with you, Mike, on Thursdays in September, October. There was so much promise, but we've arrived at the end of another season.
Yeah, it's been ugly, and it started off ugly, and it ended ugly, even uglier. There's a lot of work to be done here. I mean, it's not a quick fix, and it's going to be interesting to see what these guys, Neely, Sweeney, do with it, because the task is monumental at this point.
I think you've answered this previously, but any surprise that both of them remain here in charge?
No, I'm not surprised. I think they have a good relationship with the owner or owner representative, whatever you want to call Charlie, and I think they've had good success. And lately this year, it's just fallen apart, and it's been head scratching at times, but not really. I think I just like to tell you what I think they should do. The first need is a number one center. I don't know where they're going to get that. Probably has to be in the draft. But it's such a glaring gap in their lineup that you can't miss it. And somehow, some way, they have to find it. And I don't think they're going to find it in free agency. I think it's going to take some time to pluck somebody out of the draft. Lindholm looked like he was playing okay at the end of the year because he was playing with Pasternak and Geeky, and those guys were on fire. But he's no better than a number two centerman. And the second thing they have to do is they've got to nail the draft. They've got to nail it. They haven't done that in a while, and they haven't had many picks to nail it with. But however they go about this, they have to look at fixing problems that they need to fix, and usually that's up front. They need another top six forward. There's no doubt about it. I'm sure there are going to be some quality players in that department in free agency. And they've got to get the goalie's head screwed on straight. I don't know if he's a jerk in the locker room or not. It seems to be enough word on the street that might be a problem for them. But this kid was a phenomenal goaltender for a couple of years, and then he turned into, less than that, much less than that in the last part of this season. And it was a little scary for me. But I don't know that they can afford to trade him. But and I don't know if they could trade him at his number the way he played this past year. But they've got to figure that one out.
It seems ridiculous to ask. Is he a guy who can't play a full season? That needs his binky or whoever that is.
Well, I think the formula has been that the top goalie plays about 60 games or 55 to 60 games, and the backup plays the rest. That's a formula he should be able to handle. He's a young kid. He's in good shape. There's no reason why he can't do it. But the game-winning goal the other night was a short side goal. I mean, it looked like a simple blocker save, and he just missed it. But the next thing they got to do is find a coach. I don't think Joe Sacco is the answer here. And I think the dive at the end of the season probably proved that. There are a couple of guys that come to mind. One of the guys on their staff right now, Chris Kelly, might be a guy that they should take a look at. Jay Pandolfo, maybe from BU. Yep. There's a coach in Denver, David Carl, who's done a really excellent job. He used to work for Jim Montgomery, now on his own. And, they've got to figure out what to do with the bottom six. I mean, it's been a revolving door, and they should be able to find guys that can solidify the bottom six relatively easily. I don't know if they have them in-house, but it's not going to be that expensive, and it's a fix. But going back to the coach, somebody's got to come in and establish some discipline here. They seem to have lost their way for the most part in the last 20 games of the season. And this low rise just didn't change at all. He's minus 43, which is scary. And, on the winning goal the other night, Pasternak's on the ice, and, he's been brilliant offensively. But he keeps making the same mistakes. He's like Ovechkin before Ovechkin, got to Barry Trotz and figured out he could play hockey at both ends of the ice. He was 3-on-3, and he makes a half-hearted pass at a defenseman, at Dumoulin, who wound up scoring the goal, and then he just lazily skates to the bench. And all of a sudden, New Jersey comes back 3-on-2, and Dumoulin's got the puck and rifles it past the goaltender. It's inexcusable.
Mike, when you look at the ownership, do you feel like, or have you ever worked for an organization? Because I feel like that for the ownership of the Bruins, a successful season is just making the playoffs. And if you win a championship, it's icing on the cake. And how long do you ride that with your GM and Cam Neely?
You know, they've been better than just make the playoffs and get out in the first round. That's been the knock against the Jacobs family. And every year the Bruins spend to the cap. You really can't point a finger at them. They've given their manager and their president a chance to do what they do and put a team together that makes sense. And I think they'd certainly like to win another championships, but not easy. And the Bruins have done some remarkable things just a couple of years ago, and they seem to be knocking on the door. And it's a hard thing to accomplish. And you know, I think their trust has been earned by ownership, and they're going to get another year, maybe another two. But I mean, I think the clock is ticking at this point.
Mike, there's been some speculation that Chara's role within the organization may grow in the near future. Have you heard anything like that? And what
I haven't heard that. It wouldn't surprise me, though, Courtney. I mean, this is a quality individual, and you know, it's not automatic that somebody steps in and can do something like managing or assistant managing and be automatically successful. I mean, Z's a great guy. He's a very intelligent guy. I think he could work his way into a very meaningful relationship with Don Sweeney. And what that is, I don't know. I haven't heard anything. Well, I've heard things along the way that they were going to give him more to do or give him something to do, but he hadn't really wanted to do that. He wanted to spend more time with his kids and at home after, a long and illustrious career. And he's done that for a few years, and maybe it's time for him to, up the ante, but I have not heard anything specifically.
Mike, if Jeremy Jacobs was in charge completely, do you think Cam and Don would still be here?
Yeah, I think he would be. When Harry Sinden was the manager and Jerry Jacobs was around a little bit more, I think he gave Harry every opportunity to do the job, and I think Charlie Jacobs is doing that with Neely and Sweeney. And I don't remember a time when, Jerry was around trying to figure out what the power play was doing or what the penalty kill was doing. He certainly kept an eye on the bottom line, but different era, different time. But I think the relationships are still the same. They have faith in these guys, and it has to have been shaken a little bit given the results of this past season. But they did enough over the last 10 years of Sweeney's tenure to merit another chance, and they're going to have to earn the long-term chance.
Mike, how you talk about getting a number one center and through the draft. So I know they say it's not a rebuild, a retool, but when you start to think of just, what this team is doing, how long is it before we can actually say this is a Stanley Cup contender?
It's a good question. I addressed the goaltending situation. If that can be rectified, that's a big piece of the puzzle. McAvoy and Lindholm have to play at a different level than they played in the last year and a half. There's no doubt about it. But the defense is not really a problem. They've got enough people back there that can get the job done. I'm not too concerned about defense. It's up front where there's a concern. Pasternak, world class. Geeky, they're going to have to spend a ton of money to re-sign him. But after that, who's another top six forward? And it's going to take time. And you're asking me how long? I don't know. It's how good are they in the draft? How good are they at signing free agents? Had they kind of swung and missed at the last go-round. But I don't see it happening for 2 to 3 years at least.
But why?
This is not a retool. This is a rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
But why is Don Sweeney being handed the keys again after firing two coaches that have gone on to great success immediately with their Western Conference teams and with the way the draft has been? Fluno Shinzawa had a story yesterday where I think the Bruins have the second least players minutes from guys they drafted in the NHL ahead of only the Penguins. I just don't understand it.
Well, to address the coaching situation, different circumstances arise. I don't know what happened with Jim Montgomery. They were off to a rocky start. They seemed to be discombobulated, and I heard Charlie say he didn't see any structure in the team. It seemed to be maybe a bit hasty, and certainly, it didn't get the job done by firing him. And he goes on to do something special in St. Louis, but he had a different set of circumstances, a fresh start, and he took advantage of it. It's a good question. It's a tough call on coaches. Most of the time, it doesn't result in dramatic changes in your results, but sometimes you feel the need to make the switch because it's not going well, and it doesn't seem to be able to turn it around at some point or another. That's when you have to pull the trigger, when you don't think there's a chance for things to get better. But have they been hasty?
But, Mike, when Charlie Jacobs says yesterday that he doesn't understand why, and I'm paraphrasing, why some fans suggest that you move on from Don Sweeney or Cam Neely, it appears tone deaf. I mean, we did a poll, and 800 votes or whatever it was, and 79% thought that Don Sweeney, his tenure ought to end. I mean, I know you don't believe that, but
I also think you would have, if you'd taken the same poll of 800 people at the beginning of the year, probably the same percentage would have said Jim Montgomery should go. That's easy. If you don't win, they can't stand you. It's pretty simple. If you're not in a winning streak and you're not hot and you're not looking like you're contending, you're going to get heat, especially in this town. They want it, and they want it now. And listen, I'm sure Don Sweeney, more than anybody else, has second-guessed some of the things that he's done. And some of the things that he's done, I second-guess. But there was a time just a few years ago when they were making a run for a Stanley Cup when he made, I thought, 3 or 4 brilliant moves to bolster his team, and it didn't work. And Jim Montgomery was the coach.
So you say, so in the off season, right, where we are now, free agency, it's going to be very difficult to find that number one guy. With the Bruins picking at 7, what's the turnaround as far as the NHL draft, that type of player, to being able to help a team out when you compare it to maybe other sports? Could this kid potentially help your team out right away, or usually does it take time for that type of player to make it in the NHL?
Well, look within the Bruins organization. Lysell, I don't know if he's going to be a player or not. He shows some flashes, but he doesn't finish much. Poitras, doesn't look like he's going to cut the mustard. It's usually, for a lot of people, it's several years, but if you get lucky, it could be just a year or two when the guy is 20. There are a lot of 20-year-olds that play in this league and that are effective and very important players on their roster. But by and large, it usually, an 18-year-old draft, these are just babies. It usually takes 3 years for them to find their way to the NHL and to be a factor. And that's why this is not just a retool. This is a rebuild at the important positions at top 6 forward.
Mike, get you on record before you go. Who do you like to win it all this season?
Well, it's hard to look past the 2 teams at the top of their conference, Winnipeg and Washington. I mean, they're going to get great ratings, aren't they? Winnipeg versus Washington. But if I had to place a bet, it would be Winnipeg. They've been consistent all year long. They've got a great goaltender. They're fast and they seem committed. So I'll put a nickel down on them.
All right. Well, we have, as always, enjoyed it all season long. We will see you next on June 26th at my place by the sea in Rockport, behind the bar at your sister's place for a roadshow pregame.
And you spinning records.
Yes,
can't wait.
I'll bring the wax, stacks of wax, and unfortunately, you were unable to get Scheim on the greasy pole, but we'll keep working on that. I guess.
Just another one of my long list of failures.
All right, Mike Milbury.
See ya.
See ya.